Sooner Pocket Podcast. I'm Sam here with Chris, coming off a week of craziness. Lots of news for the Oklahoma Sooners, recruiting wise, scheduling wise. Chris, what do you have going this weekend? Hopefully, coming down from some of the craziness, I hope.
Yeah, doing a little bit of coming down from the craziness. We are hosting a Christmas party tomorrow night. Just having a few friends over. Not sure how many will end up coming. We know at least 3 are coming over, but just hosting a Christmas party tomorrow night, playing some cheesy games. Gonna try and catch some of the football games this weekend, some of the bowl games, but it's kind of like week 0 of college football season. You're glad that there's football on, but it's not exactly good football. And then hopefully watching the Bears win yet another game on Sunday. If the Bears win out, they have a pretty good chance of at least getting into the wild card. I don't think they have what it takes to make it to the Super Bowl this year, but who knows?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm sure the way you're talking about there, where it's like, it's football. It's just not good football. That's how I think most fans felt last night, Las Vegas Raiders fans aside, watching the Raiders take down the Chargers. Had scoregami last night, which was cool. First 63-21 finish in NFL history. So that was interesting. I remember when it was 63-14, and I was sitting there thinking, I remember OU putting up this score one time. Who was that against? Oh, that's against Texas. That's right. Horns down.
Forever.
But yeah, we've got really 2 decent games this weekend. 2 Power 5 games, at least I should say. UCLA taking on Boise State in the LA Bowl, and Cal taking on Texas Tech. That's going to be probably an offensive showcase there in the Independence Bowl. So some good games there. I think the biggest news of the weekend for sure was Oklahoma retaining not only star safety Billy Bowman, but also holding on to Danny Stutzman. I don't know about you, Chris, but I think the impact of this is huge, having those 2 guys leading the way for our defense going into what is going to be a daunting opening schedule in the SEC.
That schedule we have next year, it's no joke. We have the 3rd hardest schedule in the SEC, according to, I think it was CBS or something. But of the teams that are currently ranked right now, we play 6 of them next year. Let's see here in order from highest ranked to lowest ranked. There's Texas, Alabama, Missouri, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and who am I forgetting that's ranked? There's someone in there that LSU. We play LSU in Death Valley. That's never an easy game, even if LSU is horrible. It's never an easy game in Death Valley. And so given that schedule, we're going to need all the help we can get. Danny Stutzman is the best linebacker in college football. I don't care what anybody else says. Danny Stutzman is the best linebacker in college football, and there is nothing that can change my mind. I mean, during the OU Texas game, Kirk Herbstreit compared him to Dick Butkus in how he played there, called Danny Stutzman a throwback kind of linebacker. We know he has the Boz's approval. You've got Billy Bowman, who's the #1 safety in college football as well, in my opinion. 6 interceptions on the year, 3 taken for touchdowns. Why he didn't win the Thorpe Award is beyond me. But we've got 2 of the best defenders in college football who could very easily have gone pro after the season they had, decide to stay. And not only did they stay, but look at what was announced today and yesterday on the defensive line. You've got the Notre Dame transfer Jacob Lacey staying for another year. You've got the the Tennessee transfer. Yeah, the Tennessee transfer Dejon Terry staying. And Terry was our best defensive lineman that second half of the season. And Lacey got the most snaps of any of our defensive linemen this year. We have talent and we have experience coming back to us next year. Our defense is going to be a menace next year. That's the only way I can think of to describe them.
Yeah. And going on the backside of the defense too, having Gentry Williams coming back, having Peyton Bowen. We'll have his brother Eli Bowen for his first season here. Probably not a crazy amount of playing time for Eli, but you know, I think we saw this year that if you're a freshman, you have a chance to play in your first season in Brent Venables' defense. You've got to earn your snaps, right? You got to earn them, and you got to be consistent enough, I think, to stay out there. But he won't shy away from playing a freshman, so I think it looks good there for Eli Bowen. On the offensive side, obviously this week had the unexpected departure of Caden Green, which really lit a fire under a lot of people, sparked a lot of debate within our fan base, at least, about the transfer portal, about the responsibilities of athletes to the universities they're with, to their fans. Regardless of where you fall on a lot of those debates, the Caden Green departure is a big one. He was a true freshman who got 7 starts this season. That's a lot to get on a Bill Bedenbaugh offensive line. So it's really something to lose him, but kind of canceling that out a little bit. We've got Spencer Brown coming in from Michigan State, the grad transfer. He's going to be solid. We've got Eddie Pierre-Louis, the 4-star interior lineman from Tampa that committed to us today, much to the happiness of David Stone, who is going to be another one that's big next year coming in. And we got on the defensive side, we got the defensive back from San Diego State.
Oh, that's right. I
can't remember the kid's name.
His name is I know I'm gonna butcher this, but it's Dejon Malone. I think it's spelled Dezjhon. Dejon Malone, 2 years of eligibility.
Yeah, it looks like he goes by Dez.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And then we got Dasan McCullough and Kendall Dolby both returning.
Don't forget about Kip Lewis, who really came on as a redshirt freshman this year.
Yeah, he'll be solid. So there's a ton of experience we're going to have on the team, and the offensive line as a whole is not going to be a very experienced unit. So having Spencer Brown there coming in for a year as a grad transfer to really provide some guidance, I think, for some younger dudes there on the line and guys that probably won't have started together at any point, that's going to be huge, I think. Looking forward to seeing what Seth Luttrell does there with that group.
And something else to remember with that, even one of the big reasons we lost Caden Green, and one of the reasons he was so good, was just his size. He's a huge, big boy. No one is ever going to accuse him of being undersized. But look at the offensive linemen we have coming in. I'm getting this from 24/7 Sports. But just to look at the offensive linemen in the 2024 class, the true freshmen we're going to have next year and their size. There's Eugene Brooks, 4-star offensive lineman, 6'4", 320 pounds. There's Daniel Akinkunmi, the kid from London. He's 6'4.5", 310 pounds. There's Isaiah Autry, 6'7", 300 pounds. There's Eddie Pierre-Louis, who came in today, who's around 6'4", 6'4", 320, 315, somewhere around there. They're all well over the 300-pound range. And if you remember going into last season, the average weight of our defensive linemen was about 300 pounds. Now, 310 is the average of our incoming freshmen, who still have growing to do and who are only going to get bigger. And when you look at some of the people we have coming in, it's just amazing what we're setting up for next year. Also, look at the wide receiver we're getting from Purdue, Deion Burks. He's coming in with 2 years with eligibility. We're going to have him up there with Andrew Anthony, Nick Anderson, Jalil Farouk. We're going to have an abundance of riches. Yeah, Jaden Gibson, he's really come on this year. I've said it a lot on this podcast this year, and I'm going to keep saying it. Emmett Jones was the most valuable position coach we've hired probably in the last few years, at least since the start of the Lincoln Riley era. I love DeMarco Murray and what he's done with the running backs. I love Todd Bates and what he's done with the defensive linemen. But Emmett Jones, not just the recruiting work, but his development of players, it's faster and on another level. It's just insane.
Yeah, he's going to have some good potential for a head coaching job within a few years. So definitely exciting for him. We've talked a couple times about looking ahead to that SEC schedule next year. We start off relatively easy. Temple, Houston, and Tulane, our first 3 games of the season, all at home. Tulane, of course, you'll recall I believe it was the last season of the Lincoln Riley era.
Yep, Spencer Rattler was our quarterback.
Yeah, came down to an onside kick at the end of the game. So hoping we don't have that happen again. Very, very nice to have Tulane here again, but hopefully we don't cut it that close again against the Green Wave. We host Tennessee the following week, so we get 4 home games to start the year. That's as good a way as any to start out your first year in the SEC. And then comes the fun time. We get Auburn at Auburn, get a bye week, face off against Texas, host South Carolina, go to Oxford, and then we get to participate for the first time in SEC Cupcake Week. We host
in the
Maine.
Game of the year.
We host Maine on November 2nd.
The Maine Black Bears.
Oh, yeah. We get to go to Columbia the next week, take on the Tigers of Missouri, get a bye week, and then we host Alabama, travel to Baton Rouge. Chris, I'm looking best case here. Absolute best case next year, if everything goes perfectly for us, as perfectly as it can go, I should say. I think we pull off 10-2, and I think at worst we come out of the season 8-4. Average, my prediction is going to be somewhere right there in the middle at 9-3. I think Alabama and LSU facing those back to back, especially with LSU being in Baton Rouge, those are 2 ones that I would not say are likely wins for us. And Texas and Ole Miss are going to be another couple tough games. Those ones I kind of waver on. Those are the ones I'm not so sure on. I think it's almost I have a hard time right now seeing where the team is saying that we're going to handle our business well enough to take down Alabama and LSU in consecutive weeks. I could see us taking down Texas and Ole Miss both. So that's where the 8-4 to 10-2 area comes in. Maybe one of those Texas or Ole Miss games we drop. But yeah, I'm going to go out and say 9-3 for our first season in the SEC. What are your thoughts? Where do you think I'm wrong there, and how do we come out?
I agree with you on the floor for our team being 8-4. I don't think there's any way that we lose any more than 4 games in the regular season next year. But here's the thing. Brent Venables' defenses always take a monumental leap in year 3. It did at OU. It did at Clemson. And we've seen the progression from year 1 to year 2 under Brent Venables' defense. Like, even after watching that last TCU game, we can still say of the 2 halves of teams in college football, we're on the top half of defense, and we are drastically improving. We have great players come back, so the defense is going to be fine next year. We might get torched in a game or 2. It happens with every team every year, but what's going to determine how well we do is 2 things. Jackson Arnold, the offensive line. The offensive line is going to be returning 0 Oklahoma starters next year. Spencer Brown, of course, coming from Michigan State. I'm sure he started a lot there, but he's never started at Oklahoma before. And then all the players who are going to be our starters who were here this year or are true freshmen haven't started for OU before. 0 returning starters on your offensive line is a huge disadvantage, especially going up against the defensive lines you get in the SEC. On top of that, we don't know too much about Jackson Arnold. Before we talk about the bowl game, I want to say this. It's important to remember the Jackson Arnold we are going to see against Arizona, whether he looks horrible or whether he looks elite, will likely not be the Jackson Arnold we see next year. He's still got a whole offseason of time to develop. He's been taking the second team snaps this year. He's been learning how to just kind of keep the offense moving if he needs to go in. He's transitioning now to the run the offense spot. And so what we see from Jackson Arnold against the bowl game against Arizona will likely not be what we see next year. But like I said, you never know what's going to happen. Spencer Rattler was a 5-star quarterback, number 1 quarterback in his class. Look what happened there. Of course, mentally, he's I wouldn't say he's even in the same ballpark of maturity as Jackson Arnold, but we don't know how it's going to be when Jackson Arnold is playing against a ranked team away, losing by 4 with 5 minutes left in the game. We don't know how he's going to be when his first throw of the game is an interception. We don't know how he's going to respond in those things. And if he can come on quick, if he can have the first season as a starter that Kyler Murray had, that Baker Mayfield had, the first season as a starter that I'm trying to think of other examples here that Bryce Young had. Bryce Young, he started as a redshirt freshman and took his team to the national championship. The combination of the offensive line play and Jackson Arnold is going to determine how well we do next year. If they're both playing at a high level, or the offensive line is at least playing at a good enough level, Jackson Arnold's playing at a really high level, there's no reason we don't start the season 10-0. I think we have the potential to really blow out Texas next year. I thought Texas was going to beat us pretty good this season. I know in our podcast I said that we'd beat them, but I kind of thought that they'd beat us pretty good.
That was the fan talking, wasn't it?
I've been watching the highlights of that game lately, and we dominated a lot of that game. This is the best Texas team they've had since they were in the national championship. And up until the 4th quarter, OU dominated that game. And we are only going to get better from there. We're going to blow through Texas like it's nothing. Ole Miss, whenever they go up against better defenses, they tend to crumble. They don't have the defense usually to keep up with them. Tennessee is something that I think we're going to just whiff right by them too. Missouri is going to be easy. Alabama, I'd give us an advantage simply because we're playing in Norman. But if Jackson Arnold isn't on top of his game, we might drop that one. The other game I'm worried about is Auburn. We've seen with the Iron Bowl, every time it's in Auburn, Jordan-Hare Stadium is a difficult place to play. But I think if things are going as well as they can, as well as they should be going for OU, we go 11-1. We're in the SEC championship. We have too talented of a team, and we have while it's a difficult schedule, a beatable schedule.
Well, not gonna lie, Chris, you're pretty optimistic there. Talking about blowing by Tennessee and Texas. I don't know. I think
Tennessee is a shadow of what they were last year, and I don't think they're getting any better.
No, I think for sure we've got an edge on Tennessee. I just don't know that I'm going to go so far as to say we blow by either one of those, because we know Texas is 9 out of 10 years. That's a hard game. Regardless of how the teams are stacked. And Tennessee, I don't know that I'm quite ready to write them off yet. The one that's gotten here's the one that has somehow gotten attention that I don't understand. And it's these Golden Black Fools out in Missouri. They have one really good season because they bought some players, right? They have one really good season, and suddenly they're the second coming of Nick Saban's mid-2000s Alabama teams, mid-2010s
They think they're
Alabama
a blue
teams.
blood now.
And I don't know where that comes from. Missouri was consistently a mid-tier team in the Big 12. And mind you, their best Big 12 team, we killed them. And I don't know where that comes from. But watching this week, seeing the Missouri fans talking every bit that they were talking about how they're going to trounce the Sooners in Columbia, I'm amazed. I am truly amazed. I hope for their sake nobody's betting their houses on this. nobody's going and putting the kids' college fund on an Oklahoma demolition. I don't, if I was going to pick one here that I really don't see being a game against a decent team, not one of the 4 gimmies. If I was going to pick one that is as close to a gimme game as possible, it's going to be Missouri.
Yeah. And not just the best Big 12 team that they ever had, the best team that they ever had was in that 2007 season. They were ranked number 1 in the country heading into the Big 12 championship. All they had to do was win, and the Missouri Tigers are in the national championship. And we thumped them. It was tied at 14 at halftime, final score 38-17. And then the next year we play against Missouri, Big 12 championship game in 2008, we win 62-21. Let me do the math here real quick. Let's see here. 67 plus 5 is 72 plus 24 is 96. Of the 96 matchups that we've played against Missouri, we've won 67 of them and tied 5 of them. They think that they're the greatest thing since sliced bread because A, they have a couple players that they bought, and then B, they got a recruit that OU wanted. But ever since, they just think that they're the greatest team of all time, and I think they are. I'm gonna count them in the same bubble that I count TCU in. They were a one-hit wonder. They caught lightning in a bottle this season, and I think they are in for a humbling experience next year. They are going to go 4-8 or 5-7, and it will be glorious to watch. Because don't forget, Missouri had to teach their fans how to cheer at the beginning of this year. They sent out a video teaching them how to cheer.
Well, let me say this as a closing point on Missouri. I won't even go so far as to say they caught lightning in a bottle, right? You say that about the 2019 LSU team. You say that about Cam Newton's Auburn team, his national championship Auburn team. This Missouri team was 10-2. They couldn't even beat out their schedule. They scraped by for a couple of nasty wins against nasty teams that, one possession in the other direction, and that's a different ballgame. It's a different result. There was no lightning caught in a bottle here. They played better than average against a lower than average schedule, and they're the second
their
coming.
Standard, it's
I
lightning
don't get
in a
it.
bottle. It's their standard. It's lightning in a bottle. We always expect national championships. They're just happy to go to a bowl game.
Well, and to play devil's advocate there, we're not exactly living up to our own expectations going on.
No, we are
23 seasons now since our last championship. So, there's stuff to be said about both sides, but Missouri is like 9 out of 10 here on the fraud alert scale. And I'm calling in the IRS because we've got a major case of fraud here. We've got some Detroit Lions level fraud happening. Chris,
And you know how many national championships they have?
I'm going to guess the big old goose egg. 0.
Oh, whoops, didn't mean to do that.
If we look to the bowl games this weekend, like I mentioned, we've got 2 of them that are really worth watching that are Power 5 schools. Got UCLA playing Boise State in the LA Bowl. UCLA opened as a 5.5-point favorite, 47.5-point over under. They're seeing a nice defensive battle in that game, it looks like. I've got UCLA taking down the Broncos in that one. Do you see this one going any different?
I don't, especially because UCLA has home field advantage. I was about to bring up that their quarterback, Dante Moore, entered the transfer portal, but he was only starting for like half the season, so it wouldn't really be too big of a hit for him.
Yeah, that's fair.
And they trounced USC without him.
Yeah, that they did. And then Cal and Texas Tech got this one a little closer on the spread, 3.5-point game in favor of Texas Tech in the Independence Bowl. 58.5-point over under. Behren Morton for Texas Tech, just shy of 1,500 yards on the year. Not the biggest year for him. I'll admit I'm not sure on Behren Morton if he was maybe injured for part of the season, because that seems like a low yardage count compared to what we see from some others. But This one, I think Cal is going to walk in there and Cal's going to pull off the upset, probably knock off Texas Tech and come away with a nice Independence Bowl victory going into the Big Ten next season. What do you think?
Yeah, they have a high-powered offense. They're a really good team. They're a really solid team. We saw them go toe-to-toe with USC's offense. So yeah, I think Cal could very easily win that game. They have a good quarterback, a good group of receivers, just a really solid slate of players who are working well together and can really pull out the win. Now, something I want to get your opinion on, because we were talking about teams that don't usually do too well. Western Kentucky, who's been good the past few years, this coming Monday goes up against Old Dominion. I don't remember the last time Old Dominion was in a bowl, and if they were recently, it was a Nobody Cares Bowl. Old Dominion's a 3.5-point favorite over Western Kentucky, who's had pretty solid quarterback play this year and the past few years. How do you see that one going?
I think Western Kentucky's got the better team. They have far and away the better quarterback, almost a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio for their quarterback Reed. Running game favors Old Dominion a little bit. The Monarchs, I guess it is. Both teams coming off of a 2-game winning streak. Western Kentucky, though, I think you take the Vegas out of this one. I think you put these two teams on paper. Western Kentucky's going to come out with this one. Should be an interesting one to watch, though. We usually get some good, good games like this that are between lower level schools. This is where the quintuple overtimes may come into play, maybe a 72-67 type game.
Like last year, Arkansas versus Kansas in that bowl game.
Yeah, something like that. But Chris, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Make sure everybody check out www.soonerpocket.com, Sooner Pocket Podcast. Definitely an exciting time to be on the site, have some good recruiting notes from time to time whenever stuff closes. Chris also covers some of our great schools' other sports. So
yes,
be on the lookout for those.
Yeah, we're doing some basketball posts and some some baseball and softball posts this year whenever those seasons start. And one other thing, transfer portal time is a crazy time. National Signing Day is a crazy time. I have a transfer portal tracker up on the blog. It's on the forum. Feel free to check up on those. Anytime there's an update, I have it posted usually within a couple minutes. Comment on there. Let us know your thoughts. Who should be going? Who shouldn't be going? Where are people going? Let us know your thoughts.
Yep. Check us out, www.soonerpocket.com for the Sooner Pocket Podcast. And Chris Knight. I'm Sam Knight. It's been great talking with you all. Great season. Let's look forward to a couple weeks from now when the Sooners get to take on Arizona in the Alamo Bowl. Until then, Boomer Sooner.